Hey friends, welcome back to the show. Today I am so excited because actually, let's be real, I'm actually so nervous because I'm going to be interviewed by my amazing friend Bree. I'm going to introduce her right now. So before I introduce Bree, actually, we're doing this because I have been asked so many times about the behind the scenes of the launch of the Educators Lounge, which is my new membership community. And I was going to do a full recap on my own. And then I thought, I love conversations. And I thought, who better to have on than one, someone who has their own memberships, two, someone who's a part of my membership. Bree is actually part of the lounge. So I thought that was extra special. And also, Bree is one that encouraged me to create this membership as well. So it's just the perfect person. And so I'll tell you a little bit about Bree before I hand over the mic to her to take control of my show and make me nervous. So Bree Pair, she's a coach for bloggers. She's incredible. Her company Thrive educates, empowers, and just teaches bloggers and content creators to build their brands. She empowers women. She's incredible. She just teaches everybody to live their lives to the fullest. And I just can't imagine my world without Bree. So hopefully you get to connect with her because she's just the best. Okay, Bree, now you're in charge. Take it away. I'll be in the hot seat.
You are cracking me up. Something about
Nervous?
like handing over your show, right? It's like, oh my God, somebody's going to interview me now. I'm always the person that interviews others.
I'm so nervous. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Oh my
Drink my coffee.
goodness. Drink your coffee. Hello, friends. Thank you, Laylee, for having me on to do this. I am so excited. I also have my own podcast, so I love interviewing people as well. And I think I would also be probably nervous about handing over the reins on my own show. You're not alone.
Scary. It's good. I mean, it's in good hands, but it's fun.
I promise to take good care of it. All right. So, yes, congratulations, first of all, on launching the Educators Lounge. How are you
Thank you.
feeling? It's been
I
a
feel
couple
great.
weeks, right?
Yeah, this is like technically week 2 of like the official kickoff, which feels crazy because our first call was last Monday, so 1 week ago today. But it feels like we've been in it for longer somehow. But yeah, it feels amazing. I'm super, super excited. And I'm just really thankful for all the amazing people that have joined. I couldn't have dreamt of a better group to be like the founding members.
Yes, it's such a good group. And your first kickoff call, oh my gosh, it was amazing. I know I was gushing a little bit before the show, but you guys, it was fantastic. Laylee, like, I'm like texting her, like, as I'm like taking notes and she's talking. I'm like, I hopefully she doesn't like glance at her phone, but I'm like, oh my God, you're freaking killing it. Just like one lesson teaching, whatever we want to call it. Do you have an official name for those calls?
So I guess they're technically like the resource of the month.
It was
Yeah.
amazing. She's like teaching us all about like pitching ourselves and what we need to include and what to consider. And I'm like writing so many notes. And it was also just like the encouragement I needed to like, yes, I need to do this. Like I was so inspired afterwards. And so it's already off on such a great foot. Not only that, but like the chat, I don't know if you were paying attention to it much because you were obviously teaching, but it was just blowing up. There were so many people in there. It felt like we were all just like hanging out and having so much fun. And that's the type of thing I want to be a part of. I want to feel like I'm in a community. We all do this on our own as like most of us are solopreneurs and it can get really lonely. And that was just like, oh, it was just like a good like community moment. And I can't wait for the next call. So, okay, before I have a whole bunch of questions to ask you about like, oh my gosh, how'd you come up with this idea? What was launching it look like? Like, I want to dive into like the nitty gritty details in case, any of the educators listening are like, ooh, maybe I want to start something like my own type of membership. But first, tell us about the Educators Lounge. If anybody for some reason doesn't know about it yet, like pitch it to us, girl. Like, what is it? Who's it for? Tell me.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for the kind words. That means so much because you guys, Bree is a speaker, and I was so nervous, like keeping it 100% real. Like, I was nervous to teach that first resource because I was like, they probably already know all this. Like, and these are things that every one of my students is always like, everybody already knows this. And I always tell them, what's second nature to you no one else knows. But for Bree, for
Exactly.
you to say that specifically, it means the world, because if y'all are not familiar with Bree, she has been around the block. Like, she knows her shit. So like, I was not, I mean, that means the world to me, and I'm like gonna cry. But also, yes, the chat was like popping off, and it was so fun, and it was so good to see everybody so engaged and helping each other and asking each other questions. And then people were answering the questions for each other before I could even get there. And I was like, this is my dream come true. So thanks. The Educators Lounge. Okay. It is not surprising people don't know about this yet, because like I said, we've only been in it for like a week, and then there was like a week of launch before it. So it is a community membership, and it is community based. So it's for educators, obviously, the Educators Lounge, for creative educators who are coaches, course creators, speakers, event hosts, membership hosts, any type of monetized education, or who dream of monetized education. And I like to think of it as the continuous part of the conference, of the Creative Educator Conference. So if that's a good fit for you, then the membership's a great fit for you. And we do one monthly resource, a Q&A coaching call with me where you can submit questions. And then there's obviously the recording, and then a co-working call. So that's like, there's 3 kind of big pillars throughout the month, and that's each month. But the biggest component by far is that it's community based. And so you'll have access to the private community where, like I said, you can ask questions of the 80 plus other educators who are in there. And that is, I think, where the magic happens. And that's where I envision all of like the big transformations happening, is within the community, because as a community builder, that's obviously like my dream and my hope. So that's a little bit about the Educators Lounge.
Oh, absolutely. Like just being able to go in there and like, okay, I know I have a spot. I can go ask questions. And the other people in there are also educating and also building, whether it's like coaching programs or memberships or, all the things that you said. Like it's not easy to like there's Facebook groups and everything, but oh my gosh, they get so big and so convoluted and you don't really know if you can trust anybody that's giving you advice. And this just felt like such a wonderful, cozy, safe space that I don't understand how it's only been a week. I feel like it's been a couple weeks that I'm like, or a month or 2 months. I don't know. Maybe because you and I have been talking about it for so long, but I'm just like, I'm obsessed. Everybody needs to be in here. But so why did you, I mean, you yourself are an educator, you're a conference host, you so many different hats that you wear. Why a membership for educators? Where did this idea come from?
So the idea, like the initial idea, I think, like everything else that all of us do all the time, the idea popped into my mind probably around the time that I created the Creative Educator Academy, which was like the foundational course. I was like, there needs to be an ongoing community with it. There needs to be an in-person event. And that's where like, I think all the ideas started. And that was I think I started that in 2018. And
Yeah.
so it's been a long time coming. And then I kind of tabled it and put it away. And then you and I were actually at Haley Gaffin's podcast retreat. And you were like, have you thought about doing a membership? And I was like, I have thought about doing a membership, but it scares me. And I don't know what I'm doing. And I feel like, what if no one joins? And I had all these like doubts and all these like these things that I let kind of push me to table it again and again and again. And you were like, you're overthinking this.
Don't we all need that friend that's just like, no, you should probably just do it?
Yeah. And I was like, well, I want to be able to give this, 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 and this, and this. And you were like, that's overwhelming and nobody's going to stay. And I was like, okay. So, I mean, I think that's really what sparked like the reignited flame, was talking with you, talking to the other people who were there that were like, I would love
Mhm.
that. And just knowing at my core, after the Creative Educator Conference every single year, everybody leaves and they're so fired up, but then they're like, oh, I mean, we have the Facebook group, like you said, but it does get lost in the mix. Like
Yeah.
the conference Facebook group, people don't really, some people utilize it, and I love that. And they like are referring each other and stuff in there, but I feel like it just gets lost in the mix of all the other
Mhm.
Facebook groups, and there's
Mhm.
not continual like nurturing in there. And I feel like educators need a place to talk to other educators. We are the ones answering the questions all the time. We are the ones
Right.
giving and giving and giving, and we're not getting anything back in the same way. And so I wanted to create a space where we could, like you said, a safe space where people could ask questions, be, as vulnerable and as transparent as possible with each other and to have community like we provide for our students.
Yes, and you've, like, created that already. I know it's just a baby, but, like,
It's
you've
just a
already
baby.
created a place that feels safe and something that pours back into us as educators who are constantly pouring from our cup. Like, you're like mama bear, like, "No, let me refill your cup for you guys," like, so we can and you're, like, empowering us to, like, keep going and keep, keep educating, keep doing what we're doing. I'm just so glad that you started this. I'm so appreciative of it. And, there's other memberships out there for creative entrepreneurs. What did you want to do to make sure that you brought like, what did you wanna bring to yours? To make sure that it was perfect and unique for your audience. Obviously, it's for creative entrepreneurs, but like, how do you make sure you're speaking to them? And like, what was something you're like, I really want to make sure it at least has like this thing? Then I'll know it was successful.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing was I researched where and how I was going to create the actual like membership community space where people could
Mm,
interact. And so I wanted a place that I could that was I at first I did a full like big poll on both my with my newsletter, with my Instagram, with specific people, and I would ask them like, do you like Facebook communities? Like, do you want it elsewhere? And that was split. That was pretty, I would say it was
mhm.
like I want to say the exact number was like 54% of people didn't want it on Facebook. So it was like almost a 50-50
Yeah.
split. But what I after doing like days of research, I realized like, no, I want a place that is intentional, where people feel like they are not just on a social media app where they are
Mhm.
able to easily access it like from their phone, from their computer, but they have to actually go to that space and choose to interact, which could be a roadblock. Like that could be a hurdle
Yeah.
to overcome as the host. But I also think that if you can get people in the process of doing it, it becomes just like a more, like I said, intentional place where they know that that's like where they're going to get help. So it's like I wanted them to have a place where they could interact. I wanted every educator to have a place where they feel like this is specifically for this and for nothing else. And this is where I'm going to go pour into my other community. And this is where I'm going to go. And like you said, allow my cup to be filled a little bit. And so that was probably number one. I think that was a big differentiator. And I ended up going with Kajabi, who I love and they're amazing. They've sponsored my conference, and meeting the people in real life is always really important to me, the people from the companies in real life. And I think that seeing their passion for our educators and our community, plus their product and exploring, because I was with Kajabi, then I left it. Anyway, went back. I'm back now because their membership platform is so cool and they have
Mhm.
a lot of different tools that you can utilize. Like I'm doing a challenge this week. I can go live in the group when I want to. People can go live with each other and create these groups where they can go co-work if they want. And I can just do bonuses here and there. And so that was probably the biggest differentiator, I think, or the thing that I want to be the biggest differentiator.
I think it for sure is. And I was probably one of those people that voted for Facebook because I'm like, oh, I'm already on it. I'm already doing Facebook groups. But I have to say, like, there's something like psychological about like having that differentiator of like, oh, I'm not just hopping on Facebook to check my group real quick. It, like you said, it's very intentional and it has me thinking crazy thoughts of like, ooh, should I try to like switch it? Because I love how it feels. It feels really safe. I love that you were able to like go live in it and have this like safe community where you could chat. Like, yes, you can make a private Facebook group, but I don't know. There was just something a little bit, again, like those underlying psychological things that I think really play into it that I'm so glad you like took the time to think about because I think for anybody that's like wanting to start some type of like community thing or membership that what you just shared is like such a good thing to like think through all that process and think through how are people going to interact and how are they going to feel when they are interacting.
Yeah. And the logistics of like, I knew that there would be replays and I knew there would be monthly resources. And so
Sure.
those have to be housed somewhere. And so my initial
Right.
thought was actually, let me just use the things I already have. And that's what I thought is I was like, I'm a lifetime member of Thrivecart. And I think they still have their lifetime thing going on. We'll link it in their
Mhm.
show notes or whatever for you. We'll link all this stuff for you. And I was like, well, I already have that. So I'll house the replays there. And then I'll have the community in Facebook. And then I started thinking like, what are educators the most desperate for aside from like community and help? Time. We don't have time.
Yes.
And so for me, I was like, how can I make it easier for educators? And so I was like, it needs to be somewhere where it's like one spot. You go to that spot,
Mhm.
you can either go to the replays or you can go to the community, but it's all there and you can access it all very easily and like in one window versus like having to go find a login here, go into your own Facebook, get distracted by a million notifications, probably from groups that you run. Like
Right.
imagine, I'm also imagining like an educator for me, right? Let me imagine, put myself in the position of I have a question. I log into Facebook. I have 40 notifications, some from my conference group, some from my next level retreat group, some from my general entrepreneur community. And I have to answer all those 40 questions. Well, what am I going to do? Prioritize my question or prioritize my 40 questions?
Exactly. And then
So,
you put yourself through this guilt trip, right? Of like, oh, I need to prioritize my community and my people because they're
exactly.
paying me. Oof, 100%. Oh my goodness. I love that. And I want to talk about, the success with the launch of this because, okay, how many people are in there now? Over 80?
Yeah, I think there's like 85 of us in there.
That's incredible.
It's
That is
crazy.
absolutely amazing. Oh
It's
my
wild.
gosh. Oh my gosh.
It's wild.
So that doesn't just happen. That doesn't just happen. You have, and I know we talked about this back in June at the retreat. I'm like, no, your people love you and they trust you and they want to hear more from you. But that does take some smart marketing as well. So, what did marketing look like for launching this?
That is so nice that you think this was smart marketing. I
Okay, it is. You've already I listened to your other podcast where you talked about priming your audience and everything. And yes,
Yeah.
that is smart marketing.
Okay,
Give
okay,
yourself a
okay.
little pat
Thank
on
you.
the back there.
Thank you. Okay, I will accept this. I will receive this. Thank you. No, I honestly, it is insane that there's over 80 people in there. It is truly, I'm gonna be real. It took I spent like 30 minutes of a 50-minute therapy session on how overwhelmed I was that over 80 people joined because quite frankly, I doing the numbers, anybody who has done a lot of launches or maybe you're in your first couple, we like to take a look at like what are the hard numbers? Like what's the data telling us? Let's look at like the segment of my email list that is just educators, right?
Right.
Okay, so I look at the segment and I say, what's industry standard for conversion? I as I'm gonna like say this like it's like a full fact, but I'm pretty sure it's 1% to 3%, right? That's what
Yes.
everybody's always said. It's 1% to 3%. So I said, okay, on the high end, like the highest end, I'll get like 30 people in the first month. When 80 plus people signed up in the first 2 weeks as a founder, no, first week, it was a 1 week launch. Whoa. In the first one
Yeah.
week of being
Yeah.
open, having over 80 people join, it was one of the most overwhelming things ever. And in terms of marketing, I did do a good amount of like, I'm working on this. I'm excited about it because I'm the kind of person where I live my life on stories on Instagram and I'm over there like sharing the behind the scenes. I don't like secrets. I'm like, this is something I'm doing. I'm making my first membership. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to figure it out. But then I did just my email list, just the segment of my email list that has ever expressed interest in education. And they were the first ones to know for like 2 days. And I already had surpassed that
Mhm.
3% high end conversion. And so I think from there, it was kind of like I kind of threw the plan out the window a little bit. I stopped doing like the hard launch and I just started sharing like, here it is. I started sharing
Mhm.
it a little bit more organically. I did like one announcement on Instagram. I did a couple reminders here and there. My emails were consistent like once a day, but I didn't do like the full, I honestly kind of scrapped half my launch plan because again, I think unpacking this in therapy, I was like, quite frankly, overwhelmed by the success. And I had to go through a lot of mental self-talk of why are these people like, is this an accident? I mean, I'm not gonna lie. The first week, I literally had to go into Kajabi and be like, did I accidentally make this free? Like, was this
Is
like
there a glitch?
was there a problem? Like, was it just that if people clicked, they got added as like a consumer, like a customer? Like, but no, I think people were ready for it and excited for it. And
Mhm.
I've never done anything this low ticket or this, accessible at the price point that it's at.
Yeah.
And I just think it was just like a magical combination of things.
I love how you're just like, I don't know, it just was,
I don't
I didn't do anything. It just, the universe just did it. No, girl, like you've been priming your audience. I mean, the academy, the conference, like everything has been priming for this moment. And you did do such a wonderful job of just like, not like that over hype at all in your stories, but just like, "Ooh, I'm working on this. I'm really excited." Just sharing your organic, genuine, authentic self and like that you are excited about it. I felt like I could see like, "Oh, she's a little nervous about this too," which I love. Like it's raw and real and us as educators need to see that. I mean, I think every creative, every entrepreneur in general needs to see, oh, it's not just like super easy for everyone,
No.
right?
Yeah. And I do think you're right that the build over the years, like, kind of
Mhm.
built up to this. Like, I think this was something that I probably could have launched years ago and it wouldn't have sold in this way. But I think
Right.
that the years of building specifically everything to creative educators, I think that was a huge part of it too
Mhm.
that I truly didn't give myself enough credit for in that I I think that my community truly is people who have the heart to give back to their communities through their knowledge versus a lot of other communities I see for creatives who want to like sell education being like quick money grab kind of people. This is not my
Sure.
people. And I think that building that trust that I'm never going to be teaching you that. I'm going to teach you like how to actually change lives and impact people's lives and create transformations for them and in turn create one for yourself. I think building that community before selling to a community was probably what that magic was. Now that you say it.
Yes.
Now that you
The
say it.
Laylee the Laylee magic. No, I love your heart and I love how you pour into educators because there's podcasts and there's a lot of things out there, but I don't know about you, but like oftentimes when I'm listening to things, sometimes I get like tired while I'm listening to them because it's like, oh, it's one more thing that I have to do. It's one more thing that I like have to add to my to-do list. Like, oh, that's a really good idea. But like, I'm like, okay, if I listen to this podcast, it's going to inspire me, but it's also going to add to my to-do list. And maybe I'm just not feeling it right now. And having somebody pour into us is just so refreshing and not like expecting us to like go run away with a massive to-do list, but just like, ugh, it's so good. Okay. What does I'll stop gushing for a second. What does marketing look like now? Okay. So like I'm seeing you post more on Instagram and I'm over here like, yay, look at her go. But like what does marketing look like now? Because I feel like, do you agree with this? Like for me, that's one of the harder things is like, okay, you have your launch plan and you prep, you've primed your audience, all this stuff, you do your launch week, all of
Mhm.
this. And then we have to go back to quote unquote normal life. So, how are you feeling about marketing now that the launch is over? Yes, you're still in that first month, but like looking at the future and the ongoing marketing of this.
Yeah, that's something I gave a lot of thought to because quite frankly, selling or marketing, like I enjoy marketing as a whole because I
Hmm.
think it's really interesting. I like to learn about it and I also love social media because I love to connect. But something that was really daunting before I launched the lounge was that I was like, does this mean I'm going to have to constantly be like marketing and selling this one thing? And actually, one of my team members in particular, she told me something that really stuck with me where she was like, no, you enjoy sharing about what you're doing. And now you're going to be doing something every single week inside the lounge. So you'll just tell people what it is that you're doing. And it will actually be much easier than having to think about, well, what piece of content do I need to make to pull to this thing? It's like, no, the content is there because you're just sharing that. For example, last week, it's like we had our first class over pitching. So I just told Instagram that I was like, hey, I'm doing my first class over pitching and I'm so excited. And we're going to talk about how to pitch yourself. And then this week we'll do a challenge in the community and I can tell my audience that. And so I think I'm hopeful that it will feel even more
Hmm.
organic than anything else I've ever had to market. So that's my hope for sure.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's a brilliant idea. And I think sometimes I know I do, overthink it and
Mhm.
overthink like, oh, but what do I need to share? And
Yeah.
even just like, just share what's literally going on inside the community.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and I
Oh,
think that
yeah.
the
I should
other
do that.
yeah. I think the other hope is that I mean, and maybe this is naive. You can tell me, Coach Bree, you can put your coaching hat on. This might be naive. But I feel like, and again, this is a conversation I had in my team, so I have to give them credit, but they were like, you love showing up for the people who invest in you, whether it's a minute, a dollar, whatever it is that they're showing up, you love to show up like 10 times more. And so their thought, and that I've now taken on, is that if I serve the members who are inside it as well as I possibly can and do as much for them as is in my power, then they'll
Mhm.
tell their friends and they'll do the marketing for me in a way, and they'll grow the community with like-minded people without me even having to reach
Mhm.
like-minded people. Like they say, like attracts like, and I feel that that is a big goal of mine. So I think my focus right now is less even about the marketing to new people and more about pouring into like the 80 people who are in there, or 85, whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, I think for sure, like, there is, like, that element of, like, and obviously we can't ensure that every single person in our community has a wonderful experience and does everything that they need to do to get the most out of it. But yes, by you showing up and continuing to stay inspired yourself and to have fun with it and to fill your own cup with things that, bring you joy and give you that creative boost so that way you can pour back into them, absolutely is going to just continue to pay it forward and to, organically grow yourself. I mean, I know I talk to Haley, who's the producer of both of our podcasts, all the time. And she's like, no, like, I'm not really having to do a ton of marketing right now because so much of it is just referrals. And like, she's
Yeah,
like,
we're
Laylee
always like,
sends me people all the time. Like,
I
and
do.
now we're talking about it again, right? So
Everyone go hire Haley.
she gives such her team is incredible. She's incredible. And she just pours into us and makes sure that we're like at the top of our game when it comes to our podcast. And so, yes, it's 100% like going to come back to you, like what you pour into people. And I honestly love just and feel it's like refreshing to hear that you just have this organic, like, I'm going to just organically share what's going on this week and I'm going to pour into my community. And I think that's wonderful. And I think, you can always adjust and do something else later if you want. But I think for now, that's amazing. And there's something to be said too, just about like, let me like you hit beyond like your 30 that you were hopeful would join. And so now just like letting yourself breathe for a moment and like do that, like, and also give yourself credit, pop a glass of champagne, something to celebrate, because how hard is it for us as like, you're an Enneagram 3 as well, right?
Yes.
Like, how hard is it for us to like stop and celebrate ourselves?
So hard. I'm a 3 wing too, like a
Uh-huh.
strong 2 wing,
Mhm.
and neither one of those is like, let's
Mm-mm.
focus on
We
me.
hate it. We hate it. So, but it's so important for us to like, like as entrepreneurs, I think we all have this, like, we're all achievers. We want to achieve things. We want to keep going. And it's hard to just like pause and be like, hey, I did a good job. Yay. Okay, let me run and go do the next thing. Like,
Straight up. Yeah.
actually acknowledge it for a second. I'm sure you tell everybody else to do that as well.
Oh, always. Yeah.
What does future like roadmap ahead look like as you're continuing to grow this? Not marketing, but like, what are you excited for? Like, what's to come inside the Educator Lounge? Like, what's got you excited?
Oh my gosh. Well, I have so many plans for it that I'm really excited to like chip away at. I didn't want to implement all of the big ideas I had from day one. A huge vision I had was that the founding members in this first month would give me good feedback and I'd be able to see what it is they wanted. But a few things that we are 100% implementing, and that have been there from the beginning, is that we'll have a quarterly guest expert. So I'm really excited to start pulling in our guests. So the first one will be in September, which is very exciting. And so having our guest experts come in and then being able to continue to find ways to get people engaged, I think is like the biggest, like I said,
Yeah.
that's always been my biggest goal. So finding new creative ways to do that, I think is going to
Mm-hmm.
be probably a huge focus for us moving forward, especially through the end of 2024. And then also, I just like as I'm gearing up to release tickets to the Creative Educator Conference, being able to kind of like find ways to have those communities kind of intertwine even more. Although I will say
Yeah.
it organically, again, organic is like the word of the year, I guess. But it really has, I mean, there's so many alumni from the conference in there that I feel like
Mhm.
now it's just going to feel like a big reunion at the conference. So that's going to be cool.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's going to organically market your conference for you as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Like, now you have this whole other cohort of people who love to learn from you, who are forming bonds in the community, and it'll be like, "Oh my god, let's all meet up in real life
Yes.
at the conference."
It's like a literal friends trip, but with
Yes.
100 friends. It's going to be so cool. Yeah.
Oh, so good. Oh my gosh. And like as an educator, I personally can't wait to see like that is one thing of like how do I get people to keep engaging and to keep like having conversations together and stuff? That is something that is not easy.
No.
Like
Yeah.
sometimes it like picks up momentum and then it just goes and you're like, "Whew, okay." Everybody's like talking to each other. But
Yes.
it's like when you're hosting a party, you're like, "Okay, let me introduce this friend to this friend and let me like get people talking and nobody's sitting in a corner by themselves." Like it's it's a job, right? And so I personally can't wait to see how you do that and then hopefully you can teach all of us how to do it. So,
Well, when it's
yay.
so funny, I have to like fight myself. All the research I did I will say like one of the most common tips that I got was don't be the first to answer the questions in the community.
Yes.
That's the hardest thing I've ever done because I watch that group like a hawk. And so when somebody puts a
Oh, your
question,
light is like always green. You're
yeah,
always in there.
I'm like, I have to like sit on my hands, like, do not answer that question because the hope is that people will help each other and then get to know each
Yes.
other. But it's so hard because I'm like, I want to help. So that's hard. But
Right.
yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's wrap this up. If that's I feel weird saying let's wrap up this
No, I love
podcast
it.
because this is not my podcast. But let's wrap it up with like I know we've probably talked about it already, but just favorite thing about the Educator Lounge so far, and just a plug it, girl. Like here you go. Do a little hard sell. Why
Oh
should
God.
people join today after they are listening to this or while they're still listening to this?
I feel like you did the sell for me. You've been so kind and giving so many compliments. And as somebody who like y'all, Bree paid to be in there. This is like crazy to me that you're so, it really is me. I'm like trying not to cry over here. But honestly, my favorite thing is the people and not just like that there are people in there. It's the type of people. I stopped every single purchase. I got like one of those, I did a Zap in Zapier or Zapier. I never know
Yeah.
what I did a Zap where when somebody purchased in Kajabi, I'd get a text message with their name and that they joined. And so I would immediately, I'm crazy. I would immediately be like, who is this person? Like, what are they like? And everybody has just been so kind and warm and amazing. And there are incredible people that like when I'd see a name, I'd be like, I look up to this person. Like there are people
Mm.
in there who I'm like, these are industry leaders. And that was the goal. That was the hope. But
Mhm.
it's
Of
different when you
course.
see them come in. So I think my favorite thing is just, like I said, the like-minded people, the good people that are in there and who are willing to help each other.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Okay. Where do people need to go to join?
Oh my gosh, go to layleeamati.com/educators lounge. We will link it in the show notes because I keep forgetting this is my this is my
This is your podcast. Thanks for listening, guys. Okay, Laylee, I'm going to pass the reins back to you. How do you wrap this up?
oh gosh. Well, we usually wrap up with an unpopular opinion. Do you want to give
Oh,
an unpopular opinion?
like just
We could do
about,
about the topic that we're on. So we could be about memberships.
I think you should go first.
Should I?
Give
Okay.
me a second. Yeah.
Okay. I think my unpopular opinion is that, oh gosh, I have like a million because that's who I am. And that's why this is a question on my podcast. Okay. My unpopular opinion is that not everything that you do has to be strategized to death when it comes to a launch, but that the strategy of the actual product is more important than the launch. And I think that has become unpopular because so many people
Mhm.
now, so many like coaches for coaches are peddling this idea that you can create an educational thing and it'll be passive and you can do it in 3 days and pre-sell it and you'll be fine. And I'm like, no, 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 no. You need to take more time to make the actual give 100% perfect and less time worrying about the launching. Because if the thing is perfect, the people will love it enough to help you sell it. But if the thing sucks, you might get a lot of sales in the beginning, but then your reputation is going to be nothing.
Yes, there's so much. I mean, okay, so I will say yes. And I think we also have to show ourselves so much grace and like not let perfectionism stop us from doing something, because I can only imagine like this is an amazing product and membership that you launched. But imagine like 2, 5 years down the road, like it's gonna be even better. And it's like those things like when you like if you get on Instagram, or if like I always tell my bloggers, I'm like, if you go and look at a blog from like 2, 5 years ago that you were like so proud of and thought this was so amazing, or that Instagram post or your very first reel was like, oh my God, this is so good. And you go back and look at it now, you're gonna be like a cringe, major cringe. So I can't wait to see just how this evolves. And I'm so grateful to be a part of this community. And thank you for having me on your podcast to ask you these questions.
Thank you so much for doing this. I'm excited for all of our listeners to hear this, but I'm really excited for our other like co-members, our little co-workers in our group to hear it too, because I think it's going to be really fun.
Yay.
All right, I'll see you guys next week with another snack size episode, and hopefully I'll see you inside the Educators Lounge.